As bad as a 5-12 record sounds for the 2024 New Orleans Saints, there were some highlights. There were some players that stood out as exceptional in a pretty down year. And we've reached out to 10 brand new Saints reporters, podcasters, YouTubers, gathered them all up to talk about who were the 10 best Saints of 2024. But before we get into that, let's talk about 2024 as a season. So after a 2-win start to the season, Dennis Allen and the Saints lose 7 in a row, which forced Gail Benson and Mickey Loomis to have a conversation that probably went similar to this.
Now you need to do something. Do you hear me? Do something.
So after Gail Benson does something, we get Darren Rizzi moved up from our special teams coordinator to head coach. We got to see a little bit more of a high-energy version of the Saints the rest of the way, but honestly, the Saints didn't really have the horses on the field to compete on any high level, including starting quarterback Derek Carr, who was one of many casualties that we saw throughout the season. Got a little glimpse of Jake Haener, saw a lot more of Spencer Rattler throughout the rest of the season. Alvin Kamara continues to crush any offensive records that might be left that he hasn't already taken as his own. He had the Kendre Miller situation and the mishandling of his injuries. JT Gray was a standout on special teams. Oddly enough, he did not make the list, which I was kind of surprised with. But the only All-Pro on the team, no Pro Bowlers were selected, so super down year for the Saints in 2024, but let's get into the 10 best Saints of the season. Our number 10 player comes from maybe the most optimistic Saints fan you'll ever come across, Ziggy the Beast from the Jono Barnes Show. Ziggy, who you got?
What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Ziggy the Beast. I'm the producer and co-host on the Jono Barnes Show on YouTube, and my guy John Butler asks, who do I think is the impact player or one of my favorite players of the 2024 season for the New Orleans Saints? And immediately this guy snapped to my mind, and it's Taysom Hill. And what better game to highlight that showed the importance and the impact that he's had on this team than the game versus the Cleveland Browns. Now, everyone says the Cleveland Browns were a dismantled team at the time. They were hurt. All these different excuses. But at the same time, let me read all of these stats to you. 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a career-long 75-yarder, 8 catches for 50 yards, and a pass completion of 18 yards. He was also named the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. If y'all had not seen the highlight film for that game, please make a point to go check this out, because it's almost like the best moments of Taysom Hill. It's like all of the things that he does well that earned him the name the Swiss Army knife pretty much showed in this game right here. And this is also a quote from his coach Darren Rizzi during the season when he was asked about Taysom Hill's impact on 2024. And he says Taysom Hill is just an old school throwback kind of guy. And I think that is a great way to sum up Taysom Hill. His teammates love him. The coaches love him. The fans love him. The analysts love talking about him. You can put this guy at tight end, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, special teams. It don't matter. He's one of those guys. It just reminds me of like growing up playing football with your friends. You have the guy that plays multiple positions on the field, and you just want to play the game. And I think Taysom Hill is probably one of my all-time favorite Saints, and it's been a pleasure to just watch him play and watch people start to appreciate him more and more. And also, last point, don't you just love how Taysom Hill just goes crazy versus the Falcons? That's another reason to really love him. I appreciate you, John Butler. It's your boy Ziggy the Beast, and we'll see y'all in the next one.
Andrew Juge from the Saints Happy Hour podcast comes in at 9. Let's hear who Andrew's got.
What's up, everybody? This is Andrew Juge from the Saints Happy Hour podcast. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to John Butler. He's awesome. I love his stuff. And you probably, if you're watching this video, you already know this because you already follow his content. So keep doing that. I am picking number 9, the 9th best player of the Saints season. I was between 3 players here. I have to be honest. I thought about Taysom Hill. I can't believe he hasn't been selected yet. He had a great season, and I thought Kubiak used him really well. Obviously, the unfortunate injury. I thought about Chase Young. I think Chase Young, in some ways, didn't quite live up to what we were hoping for, but he still had a good season. But I opted not to go with those 2 guys, and you guys are going to absolutely hate me for this pick. But my number 9 player, I probably would have rated him higher, honestly. It's Derek Carr. So I'll let you guys get your pitchforks, get your weapons, and arm yourselves to hurt me because I know you hate this decision. But I have Derek Carr, and in my defense, I will say if you look at Derek Carr for the season, his quarterback rating was 101.0. That is second best of his career. His QBR was 63.1, third best of his career. So, obviously there were the injuries. He missed a lot of games, and I think that's the biggest thing you can kind of complain about with Carr. But I thought he was pretty good last year. I thought he was even better this year when he played. Obviously his starts accounted for all the Saints win this season. They were 0-7 when he didn't play, 5-5 when he started. So obviously the Saints needed him, and he was a big difference in their ability to compete this year. And I would say the only thing is I wish we had a little bit more of them. I know, unbelievable. But Derek Carr, number 9. Thanks, John, for including me, and I'll see you guys soon.
At number 8, we've got Corey Moll from the 28 to 3 podcast. I love that name, 28 to 3 podcast. Got such a nice ring to it. Who you got, Corey?
All right, what's up, whodat Nation? I'm Corey Moll, one of the co-hosts of the 28 to 3 podcast. Big thanks to John for having me on to make a selection on this list. Now, my pick here is a pick that is just as much to give respect to one of the all-time great Saints for the year that he had, as it is a pick that I think my fellow co-hosts on the podcast will get a kick out of. That's Dar Saint and Nick Shea. Now, I don't think you can have a top 10 list for this past year without mentioning none other than Cam Jordan. Now, did he have the same year by Cam Jordan standards that we have seen from him over his Saints career, especially during the middle parts of his career when he's in his 20s? No. But when you look at what he did overall for this team and for this defense, which struggled mightily at times, he showed to be the anchor and the leader of this defense that this team needed. Early in the season, you could say that you could question whether or not he was going to end up even having any contribution to this team. But what I was impressed with this year from Cam Jordan is that, after Dennis Allen gets fired, after the team goes through some difficulty, losing streak, he dug deep, summed it up, and ended up having a great year. He ended up with 4 sacks, which, again, not great by his standards, but tied for third in the team. He had 7 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits, 4 passes defense, and the man even had an interception this year. That hadn't happened in 7 years. He was playing his ass off all year, and his sack total this year raised his career total to 121.5. So his Hall of Fame case continues forward. He helped contribute to that this year. And, when you watch the way he played to finish the year, you saw a guy who continued to play motivated, 2 sacks against the Redskins on Jaden Daniels, and someone who just never gave up on the season. And, of course, one of the biggest reasons he factors into this list for me is who he is off the field. He won the Bart Starr Man of the Year award. He's nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. It's going to be awarded at NFL Honors. I know that he's hoping for that one. And, you can't talk about who is a true New Orleans Saint without talking about Cam Jordan. And he showed that this year. And so that's one of the big factors for me, in addition to what he did on the field. And when it came down to it for me, at this spot in the top 10, it was between him and Taysom Hill. And, of course, Taysom had fantastic games along the way and should be in this top 10 list and could easily be at number 7. But one of the things I was most impressed by with Cam Jordan is he played in all 17 games this year. And so for a guy who's in his 13th year with the Saints, 13th year in the league, playing all 17 games, contributing and finishing strong at the end of the year is why I have Cameron Jordan.
At number 7, we got Kadin over at KAJ Sports and whodat Nation over on Instagram, which is where I originally found them. Always posting great stuff. Who you got, Kadin?
What's up, everyone? It's Kadin of KAJ Sports. Check me out for Saints content and videos. We got NFL content and videos in general. If you don't want to check me out, then cool, whatever. I had the 7th pick in this year's top 10 Saints selection, and I went with Foster Moreau in his 2nd season with the Saints. Foster Moreau was probably the most reliable player on the team this season, not only just because he was healthy for basically every game in a season where everyone got hurt, he was available, and everyone knows the saying, the best ability is availability. He was there for every single game, but not only was he reliable health-wise, but even production-wise, he was as reliable as anyone else on this team. As a pass catcher, he was targeted 43 times and caught 32 passes, and I'd bet, of those 9 incompletions, I'd bet a good amount of them were probably not catchable. Like, if you went through all the passes that were incomplete thrown his way, it was probably only like a total of 2 or 3 were on him, and the other ones were too high or too low or out of bounds or whatever it may be. To go along with the reliability as a pass catcher, he was a reliable outlet for Spencer Rattler, a rookie quarterback who really did not have a whole lot to work with. Foster Moreau was one of the few players that he had to rely on. He was a good safety blanket for him. Spencer Rattler was able to find some nice connections with him, and not even just Spencer Rattler, but Derek Carr. There's games where he didn't have a whole lot to work with, and he found Foster Moreau for some nice gains, some nice touchdowns. One that stands out was that strong touchdown catch versus the Panthers. I have no idea how he held on to that. That was as impressive as a catch that you'll probably ever see. Strong hands, reliable. When I think of Foster Moreau, I think of a reliable player. He led the Saints in touchdown catches with 5. He was 3rd in both yards and catches on the team. And outside of Alvin Kamara, you could argue that Foster Moreau was probably their best player offensively. Hell, you could probably argue that he was one of their best players this season, which is why I picked him at number 7. And not only was he reliable as a pass catcher and stuff too, but run blocking. This scheme is based on running the ball. And he played a huge part of that because Juwan Johnson isn't the best blocker. Dallin Holker's too small to be a blocker. That falls on Foster Moreau. He was a big part of the running offensive success this season. And he was even a huge role in the pass blocking. You go back to week 2, Micah Parsons didn't have any action because Foster Moreau had a huge role in blocking him and trip blocking him and making sure that he didn't do his job. And on top of that, he was just a much better leader in general for this team. You listen to the press conferences, you hear what they're saying about him in training camp. He became more of a leader for this team in general. So that's why I have him picked at number 7 in 2024. It really sucks that he got hurt. I hope it doesn't impact his 2025 season. He became one of my more favorite players this year in general, and that's what I got for Foster Moreau. So shout out to John Butler for putting this together. Make sure you subscribe to him and check me out if you want to as well. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Last year we had Dat Boy Wolf on the list. This year we get the other half of the Saints Block Party podcast. Adam coming in at number 6.
This is Adam West, co-host of the Saints Block Party podcast, talking about pick number 6, Bryan Bresee in the top 10 Saints of 2024. I picked Bryan Bresee because I just feel like as Saints fans, there's a lot of negative talk that Bryan Bresee gets as a player. People focus very highly into his PFF rating, and the reality is there are some things he needs to improve on as a player. He is not a good run defender, and that is something that he has to improve on as a player. But he, as a rookie and as a second-year player, has provided pass rush and has gotten 7.5 sacks last year. He has shown he has the capability, he has the tools to be disruptive in terms of rushing the passer. And I think what a lot of Saints fans don't seem to really realize is that he hasn't had good coaching the last 2 seasons. That's just been facts. He hasn't had good coaching the last 2 seasons in terms of on the defensive line. That hadn't been there. They changed when Brian Young became the defensive line coach, and now Bo Davis coming in from LSU, defensive line coach, has high regards. The hope is that Brian Bresee will take that step in terms of his going into his third year, becoming a better player. But he does, a better all-around player. For him to take that next step, he does have to improve in the run game and becoming a better run defender, and shutting down run game from opposing offenses, because that is a weakness of his, and it's a weakness that keeps him from being on the field, in all honesty. But there are plays that he makes from the defensive tackle position that we just have not seen other defensive tackles make in quite a while. And that's why he is number 6 in terms of top Saints from 2024. Don't let PFF numbers completely sway you for him in terms of on a player. He is a young player, a good player that has the potential to continue to ascend, and has the talent to continue to ascend. And for a team that needs a lot of help defensively, he should hopefully take that leap in year 3 with a defensive change, Brandon Staley coming in and having better overall coaching, because he has shown with limited coaching, or not the greatest coaching, that he's able to be disruptive and still accumulate 7.5 sacks. And not to say that sacks are the end all be all in terms of marks of a good player or a bad player, because we know that that's not the case, but he has shown the ability and capability of being disruptive from the interior, which is a trait that the Saints desperately lack.
Athlon Sports, Second and Saints podcast, probably one of the hardest working guys in all of Saints media, John Hendrix, coming in at number 5.
Hey folks, John Hendrix here of Athlon Sports and Second and Saints, joining John Butler to talk about the top 10 Saints for 2024. And look, my choice is pretty easy, although maybe people don't really think about him much, but Blake Grupe deserves a spot in the top 10. Here's why. Look, when you talk about a season, when you go 5-12, nothing really goes right, all these types of things, Blake Grupe was pretty consistent, right? He went from 81% last year in his rookie year to 87% overall in his field goals. He was 16th in the league at 112 points, 13th in field goals made at 27 for 31. He had a long of 57, 2 missed extra points, 31 to 33. I mean, he was, he's human, right? That thing happens. But the 112 points, the Saints put up 338 points on offense in 2024. Blake Grupe accounted for 33% of that, right? Like, that's a big deal. And, you look at the years where they had so much instability at kicker. You think about some of the greats that they've had, like Morton Anderson and John Carney. Even Garrett Hartley deserves a mention, because obviously he sent the Saints to the Super Bowl, kicked a great game in the Super Bowl. But, Blake Grupe, what people kind of forget about him is in talking to guys like Darren Rizzi, Phil Galliano, who's now the special teams coordinator for the Saints, is, look, in his rookie year, Blake Grupe went from basically all the college. As soon as college ended, he started his draft prep. So college to draft prep to pro days to kicking camps, all these other stuff. And then he ends up going to the Saints and he's in a kicking competition, all this other stuff. And, what ends up happening, obviously, is he's been kicking this entire time. The Saints go with him over Will Lutz. And then, eventually, once the season ends, that in his rookie season, he gets a chance to rest and recover. He gets to rest his body, comes back the next year, has Charlie Smith, has a heck of a leg, obviously newer to kicking than Grupe, but fends him off, wins the competition. Then he's able to go out there and execute and be the guy for the Saints. And so, look, again, you break down a little bit more of his numbers. He was 4.4 inside of 20 to 29. That's obviously pretty much, you would say, automatic, right? 30, 39 range. He missed 10 of 11, 40 to 49 range, which is kind of one of the things where people were a little bit more concerned from his rookie campaign, but he was 7 of 8. So again, 1 miss. I know sometimes those misses are critical in big situations and games, but again, pretty consistent there. And then from the 50-yard range and above, he was 6 of 8. So look, a lot of people are going to look at, 20 other players probably before you get to Blake Grupe, but I think he deserves a spot and an honorable mention as one of the top 10 guys for the Saints in 2024.
Another second half of the pairing. We've had Bob Rose from the Bayou Blitz on before. Now we got Brendan Boylan coming in at number 4. Who you got, Brendan?
What's up, guys? Brendan Boylan here with the Bayou Blitz podcast, and I'm here to give you the 4th best Saint of 2024. 2024. And though it was a limited sample size, I'm going with the speedster, the wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed. He was a pivotal contributor to the New Orleans Saints offense in the 2024 season, and he made significant impacts in the team's 2-0 start, where they were scoring boatloads of points. Remember, 91 points through those first 2 games of the season. That is an NFL record, 91 points scored through the first 2 weeks. And that seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Though Shaheed only played in 6 games before injury, he recorded 20 receptions for 349 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 17.5 yards per catch. His ability to stretch the field, make explosive plays, and give Derek Carr an option deep down the field, it was critical to the Saints' passing attack that made them so special early on in the season. But beyond that, we can't forget how vital Rashid Shaheed is as a return man, standout return specialist. His dynamic skills provided the Saints with favorable field position through those first 6 games, and that was enhancing the team's overall offensive efficiency, giving them short fields and not making Derek Carr do too much. Remember, Carr's numbers, though the Saints were winning and he was throwing touchdowns, he wasn't putting up incredible yardage statistics through the first 2 weeks, which means the Saints were doing a great job. Special teams, right? That special forces making big plays to give the Saints short field. Shaheed was a big part of that. And going back to Shaheed offensively, I mean, he's known for his speed. He's known for his agility. He was a constant deep threat, capable of also turning those short passes into significant gains, really became a better route runner this year and late in the last season. That versatility allowed the Saints to utilize him in motion in multiple offensive schemes, and it made it really challenging for the defense with a healthy Rashid Shaheed, a healthy Alvin Kamara, and of course a healthy Taysom Hill as well. Let's not forget the Saints know the type of value that he brings to the table. The Saints, prior to the 2024 season, extending Shaheed's contract. That was a 1-year, $5.2 million extension. So just to wrap it up, Rashid Shaheed, his contributions in 2024, though we didn't get to see a whole lot of them, he was instrumental to showing us what the Saints could be offensively in the big picture and how this undrafted kid is going to be a vital part of the Saints' success moving forward. So again, the 4th best Saint of 2024, according to me, Brendan Boylan, it is Rashid Shaheed, and I can't wait to see what he does for the New Orleans Saints moving forward in his NFL career.
Now for number 3, Tina Howell from Canal Street Chronicles was supposed to be slotted here, and she did pick the player, but she is super busy. She's doing some incredible things, so make sure you follow her. In any event, taking the place of Tina Howell is me. Whodat, everybody? John Butler from this channel. And so Tina Howell selected this player at number 3, and since I had no objections, I just decided to roll with the player that she picked. So you've got yourself a captain, basically the heart and soul of this defensive unit. Has been around since 2018, and outside of all the great things that he does on the field, the amount of work that he does in the community, it's hard to argue with her selection. Number 56, Demario Davis. Again, putting aside the stuff that he does off the field, the motivational speeches he gives before the games, the 60 minutes that they're playing on the field is what matters in this list. So let's break it down a little bit. All right, so I'm breaking down the numbers for Demario Davis. He's been in the league since 2012, been with the Saints since 2018. So a 36-year-old linebacker you would think would be on the decline, but Demario Davis actually set a personal best 136 tackles this season. He was a tackling machine. Not only did he lead the Saints in tackles, obviously, you put up 136, you're gonna lead the pack. He led in both solo and assisted tackles. So any way you slice it, Demario Davis was all over the field, available for all 17 games, which again in the 2024 season was miraculous because not many people can wear that badge. Aside from all the tackles, a couple of sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 7 passes deflected, and an interception. The interception came away against the Giants. Drew Lock kind of cemented the game for the Giants. I was lucky enough to be in the building for that. I actually thought he scored a touchdown, but he kind of gave himself up before he took off running for the end zone. Kind of a sneaky, let's see if we can get away with it move. But yeah, no issues with Tina selection here at number 3, Demario Davis. This guy seems to be on this list every year, and for good reason. Who dat, everybody? Now we're going to go to number 2. So for number 2, Hoodie Juge was supposed to make this selection, and he did make the selection. But as far as coming up with the video, he got tied up in a lot of his day-to-day life, his 9 to 5, got a new girlfriend. Congratulations, Hoodie. In any event, we're going to throw this one over to AI and see what they come up with.
Hey, Saints fans, let's talk about Taliese Fuaga, the rookie sensation who took the New Orleans Saints by storm in 2024. Starting all 17 games at left tackle was no small feat, especially for a rookie. It was the first time a Saints rookie did this since Ryan Ramczyk in 2017. Fuaga was initially projected to play right tackle, but he stepped up to the challenge and excelled at left tackle. Ranked 4th out of 12 rookie tackles with a 65.7 PFF grade, Fuaga shined, especially in run blocking. He even hit a career-high 90.0 PFF run blocking grade against Green Bay. Despite allowing 37 pressures and 562 pass blocking snaps, Fuaga's consistent performance and durability made him one of the most valuable Saints players. He was one of the few offensive players to start every game, proving his worth on the field day in and day out. And let's not forget, this was a season where the Saints didn't have an elite draft, but Fuaga's performance stood out. Transitioning from right tackle in college to left tackle in the NFL is no easy task, but Fuaga did it seamlessly. Known as a talented sponge, he quickly adapted to the NFL, constantly reviewing game film and seeking advice from coaches, even late at night. A shout out to offensive line coach John Benton, who played a crucial role in Fuaga's development. Early on, Fuaga faced stiff competition against guys like Carl Granderson and Chase Young. While he had some tough games, particularly against Denver and Kansas City, his rapid improvement was evident. Drafted 14th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft, Fuaga has proven to be a potential franchise left tackle for the Saints. He's earned praise from coaches and teammates alike, with offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak applauding his work ethic and dedication. Carl Granderson also noted Fuaga's athleticism and quick learning during training camp. Saints fans, get excited. Taliese Fuaga is here to stay, and he's just getting started. Who dat? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Saints updates.
We have finally reached our number 1 selection on the list. First, before we jump into it, thank you to all the people that participated in this, as well as you for sticking it out throughout the end of the video. Let's jump into number 1, Dan and Mike from the Saint City and Me podcast. Let's hear it, fellas.
This is Dan and Mike from the Saint City and Me podcast in the UK. John, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this 2024 Top 10 Saints list. It's been a rough year for the Saints, but there has been a diamond in that rough, and that person is our number 1 Saint of the 2024 season. Alvin Kamara has proven time and time again why he is the heartbeat of the Saints offense. In 2024, he's not just a dynamic playmaker, he's an all-round weapon. Whether it's making plays in the backfield, catching passes as a receiver, or even blocking for his teammates where he needs to. Kamara is prepared to do it all to help this team win. He came so close to breaking 1,000 yards rushing, finishing with 950, and had it not been for injury in the closing stages of the season, he would have broken through that landmark stat with ease. but that's only part of the story.
Kamara also led the team in touchdowns with 6 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns, showing his ability to finish drives and still make an impact in the red zone. He racked up 543 receiving yards, further cementing his versatility. And again, had it not been for injury, he would have finished the season as a team leader in receiving too. In fact, Kamara led the Saints in all-purpose yards in 2024, making him the clear offensive leader.
But what makes this season even more impressive is the history Kamara made. He broke Mark Ingram's rushing yard record to become the New Orleans Saints' all-time leader in rushing yards. Not only that, but he also now holds the franchise record for most rushing touchdowns, most total touchdowns, and even the most touchdowns in a single game. An incredible feat.
Kamara's legacy is firmly cemented in New Orleans, and this season he's shown why he is not just one of the best backs in the league, but one of the top 10 players to ever wear a Saints uniform, not just this season.
And it's not just about his stats. Kamara's leadership and veteran presence have been huge for the young offense. He's a strong voice when needed in the locker room, guiding the way, mentoring rookies and new faces on the team.
Throughout the season, Kamara was a voice of reason and positivity when speaking with the media. Even when the season outlook looked bleak, he maintained professionalism through the negativity of Dennis Allen's final season. AK's leadership was formally recognised when he was made a team captain when interim head coach Darren Rizzi took the reins.
Alvin remains committed to the city of New Orleans and the team. That's not bad for a guy from Atlanta. But even after a period of people questioning his ability to still do it between 2023 and 2024 season commencing, he's bounced back strong, continuing to make highlight reel plays week after week.
So, Alvin Kamara remains the top Saint for 2024. His consistency, playmaking ability, leadership, and record-breaking performance make him an irreplaceable asset to the roster. And long may it continue.
Whodat?
Whodat?
So much fun putting this together. Thank you to everyone that participated. Everyone that participated in this video, their links will be in the show notes in the descriptions below, so you can check out all their channels. I have to assume that everybody that's watching this is also subscribed or hooked up with those people because they're 10 of the best. Well, 9 of the best plus me. But thank you so much for sticking it out. 2024, we all suffered together, but, you know, we've got each other. So, who dat? We'll see you on the next one.